So good.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, Akka, we can.
Yes, this is the process flow diagram that we built in Proto. And the first step in building any flow sheet is selection of components. So to select the components, we have to go to the component properties that is available in the input menu and click on that. Sorry, component selection. Yeah, here we add all the components. And in the Pro2 data banks, starch and glucose are not available. So there is a need for building these components. First, in order to build these components using Pro2, first we have to click on user define and add the components here. And then, and then to build the components, we have to go to component properties and then click on fill from structure and add glucose and starch here in this block and then click on OK. And again, go to Unifact structures. I'll show you how to develop the structure of glucose. Yeah. Here you can see, here I'll show you how to build the formula of glucose. Here, these are the functional groups and this is the frequency of occurrence, like how many times that particular fragment is occurring in the glucose molecules. If you see this fragment is occurring only once. So here the number one indicates the frequency of occurrence of this particular fragment in the glucose molecule, and this aldehyde group is occurring only once. And whereas we can find four OH alcohol groups in the glucose, that's why four is given here, and three CH groups and three tertiary CH groups are also involved in the glucose. So this is how we develop glucose, and similarly the structure is developed for starch as well. So to add the now the structure is added. To add the properties of these two particular components, we have to go to the fixed properties and give the standard densities, normal boiling point, and molecular weights. By giving these, the Pro2 calculates the remaining properties. So this way we got the proper component properties for glucose and starch also. The next step is giving a thermodynamic data. To give the thermodynamic data, we have to go to thermo, and here we selected thermo NRTL method because the phases involved here are liquid phases. And the next step is we have to give all the reactions whatever involved in our process. So to give them, go to reaction data, and here we have two reactions. That is, one is starch to glucose and other is glucose to ethanol. Let us look at how starch to glucose reaction is given. Yeah, here click on definition. Yeah, by giving the stoichiometric coefficients, the formula for reaction is developed. You can look at that formula here. Yeah. Similarly, fermentation of glucose reaction is also given by giving the stoichiometric coefficients. So after the component selection, thermodynamic data and reaction data are given. Now actual process of building the flow sheet begins. Yeah, here you can see the first reactor is, this is the conversion reactor one where hydrolysis of starch occurs. And the conversion reactor simulates a chemical reactor by solving the heat and material balances based on supplied reaction stoichiometry and fractional conversion. Here feed streams are starch and water and the product stream is glucose. And hydrolysis reaction occurs at fixed temperature, that is 90 degrees Celsius, and the extent of reaction is 0.89. It means the conversion is 89%. And these values, whatever the conversion and the temperature values, are taken from the literature. And this glucose produced is fed to conversion reactor 2, where the fermentation of glucose takes place to give ethanol and CO2. Fermentation reaction occurs at fixed temperature, that is 35 degrees Celsius, and the extent of reaction is 68.7%. Now, whatever the ethanol produced is impure ethanol, this impure ethanol is fed to heat exchanger to cool down the contents of ethanol stream because fermentation is an exothermic process. And to purify this ethanol, it is fed to distillation column as feed. And the number of trays are given as 8 to the distillation column. And by clicking on the feeds and products, the initial estimates for feed tray number and flow rates of product and waste stream are also mentioned. And by clicking on the performance specifications, here we specify waste flow rate, waste stream flow rate and the reflux ratio, and specify the variables as condenser and reboiler heat. This one, okay. This is how we build a flow sheet. Like we used a case study option to understand the effect of purity of ethanol in product stream with feed tray location, and also to understand the effect of duties of reboiler and condenser with feed tray location. Uh, to, in order to duplicate that case study option, go to input, and here case you can see the case study option. Click on that. First, let me tell about the peculiarity of case study option. Yeah, case study is an executive level feature that allows us to perform parametric studies on a base case solution by altering the data selectively and rerunning. Case study does not allow you to change the flow sheet by adding or replacing unit operations or streams. Case study allows us to change the value of a specification but not the type of specification. Using case study, we can make the changes to input data and examine the effect of those changes on the values of calculated data. Here in our work, changes are made to feed tray location from fourth tray to eighth tray, and we examine the changes of the values of these data variables like reboiler duty, condenser duty, and the purity of ethanol. To see how to see how feed tray location affects the reboiler and condenser duties and purity, let us look at them in the plots. So to look at the plots, first run the simulation. Yeah, go to output and here click on plots. Here we can see the effect of feed tray location on the condenser and reboiler duties and purity. So the first plot is feed tray versus condenser and reboiler duty. Click on data. And here on the x-axis parameter 1, that is the parameter 1 is the feed tray location, and the result 1 is the reboiler duty, and the result 2 is the condenser duty. So to preview the plot, let us click on. Yeah, this is the plot. Like Ligvija said, they seem like they deviate much, but whereas the scale is very small, that's why they seem like they deviate much. And similarly, the second plot is also plotted. Yes, this is how we build the flow sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Akka, for your wonderful presentation, which was really flawless. And next comes Tanmay Akka and Purijatanna.
So, good evening to everyone present here. I am Tanmay, and Purjit is here as well. And we've done a project on the conversion of ethylene to ethanol in an equilibrium reactor. So here we've taken a problem statement, and that's what we've done our project on. So I'll give you a minute to read the problem statement and let it sink in. So basically here what is asked is to estimate the conversion of ethylene. So basically ethylene is being reacted with water and is converted to ethanol. Okay, that's the basic reaction that's happening here. And we have to estimate the conversion. Also, they've given us the temperature and pressure of the feed, and also what's the feed rate, what's the molar ratio, and what's the reactor temperature. Okay, and these are a few of the coefficients that was given in the problem statement. The problem statement as a whole is divided into 3 parts. We'll go one by one. Okay, Purjit, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so we'll do the demonstration simultaneously so that you guys can understand what we've done a bit better. So, okay. Purjit, you want to go?
Okay, yeah, cool. So if you see, Tanmay, can you go back to the problem statement?
Sure.
Yeah. So if you see, we already have a reaction here, that is ethylene reacts with water and then gives you ethanol. So the first thing that we did was Tanmay, Pro 2.
Yep.
Okay, so first thing that we did was we selected three components, that is ethylene, water, and ethanol. So as of now, we just selected the components. There is no particular like we didn't define the reaction. So the next thing that we did was we defined the reaction input. Yeah, reaction data. You just set a name, some random thing, and just we define the reaction. So here you have to select the reactants and also the products. So here you can see that like there are many things that you can do, but like basically you get the use formula thing here. You get the basic equation as you have in your problem statement or whatever process that you decided. So okay, and you have to give equilibrium data. So so what we did was we changed the liquid activity basis, default phase to vapor, and we changed the vapor activity basis to fugacity. That was the only thing that we changed, and we gave the data. Okay, so we didn't give enthalpy and all the other data because it was already defined for the components in the library, so we didn't have to give any of that data. Okay. Yeah.
Also, you need to select the thermodynamic, like which process are you going to do. And in the problem statement itself, it was given SRK. So we've selected that. But it's also because it's a vapor phase reaction, you have to select SRK. Okay. And yeah, you want to go?
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was coming to that, but okay, yeah. So now that you have decided, now you decided first you put the components, then you decide the reaction, then you decide the type of thermodynamics the reaction happens, like three in any order. So now what you do is now you choose a reactor. We chose a equilibrium reactor. So what it is given in the statement is that the feed is at 25 degrees Celsius and 35 bar, and it is at 250 degrees Celsius. So it shows that it's a fixed temperature equilibrium reactor. So we chose the reaction name, the reaction set name that it says here, over here, like the reaction that we defined, ethylene to ethanol. So then we give the temperature and the thermodynamics that we're using. So we even have to give reactor data. Wait. Just for the next one, no?
It's
Okay,
just
no.
that. Yeah,
Okay.
and then the stream data as well.
Yeah.
No, go. Okay. So in the problem statement itself, it was mentioned that the feed rate is 5:1 ratio. So that's what we've done. So 100 kg per hour, right? So that's what we've done. Ethylene is one out of 6 parts, it's 1 part. So that comes to 16.66, and water is the other 5 parts. So 83.33. That's how we've defined it. And as you can see, the total flow rate here is 100 kg mole per hour. So what you need to basically do is just define all of these, and you have to next run your program to get your output. Okay. So I'll just show you our output real quick. Yeah. So this is basically our output, if you can see, where at the end it's shown here that the fraction that's converted of ethylene is 0.15 or 15%, as you can say. Okay. Next, I'll go to the part B of the part B and C. Pujit, you wanna take?
Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So here we're taking 80% of the equilibrium conversion because like you can't it takes a long time to attain equilibrium, so you're just trying for an 80% equilibrium 80% equilibrium conversion. So what we do is here right now, to get 80% conversion, we use a device called a controller. Okay, Tanmay?
Yeah.
Here's a result from the web.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so what you do is first you define your specification in terms of your parameter. Okay, so wait, you see specification here, right? So what it said was, of the equilibrium conversion we had, we wanted just 80% of it. Yep. So you choose what is your variable. You can even choose temperature. If you see at the, what do I say, if you see the one below variable, it says equilibrium, like reactor, like exit stream part C. That is variable for us. So, and what it is we have a ratio of equilibrium conversion of this reactor, that is second reactor to the first reactor, is 0.8. The equilibrium ratio, that is C, what we wanted was 80%, not 80% conversion, but the 80% conversion of the first reactor. 80% conversion of the first reactor, that is 15 into 0.8 blah blah blah, it is close to 12%. So here we did the same thing. Equilibrium conversion of the first one divided by second one, it's 0.8. And yeah, then we, yes, I think, yeah, that's sort of about it. Then yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the remaining data is the same as what we've done for the part A as well. You run and you get the output for this as well. And I'll just show you that. Yeah. So here the only difference is that at the outlet, because we already have put that we need 80% of conversion, that it's showing that the outlet stream temperature is at 264 degrees right now. It's supposed to be 250. Now it's increased by 14 degrees. Okay. So this will help us solve our part 3 of the question, or part C, which is basically that we have to validate the same of what is part B by using extent of reaction. So where do you find extent of reaction is that you go to the same reactor and here you get the option of extent of reaction. Okay. And when you click it, you get two approaches. One is the temperature approach and other one is the fractional approach. So here we've done both, as you can see. So temperature approach here is 14 degrees because in the first problem statement, we've seen that the reactor was fixed at 250 degrees. But after 80% of the conversion, it increased to 264. That is, the temperature is increased by 14 degrees. So you put 14 degrees as the temperature approach and you run it and you basically get the same conversion back. So that's what we're doing. We're reversing it basically to get the same conversion. Otherwise, you can either go and do the fractional approach basically. And here 0.8 is nothing but the extent of a reaction, 80% conversion from our part B. And we've run it and yeah, so that's what it is about basically. I'll stop presenting right now. That was our little project, and I don't know how many first years are over here, but one thing I can say, or people who have not started Proto, is this can feel overwhelming and you see it at once, so many things. But start with your questions from your TD textbook or your FM textbook and then slowly build onto it, and then it'll be easy for you. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tanmay Akka, and thank you, Purijit Anna. It was a wonderful presentation. And next comes our Nikhil Anna from third year and Apurva from first year of chemical engineering. Over to you, people.
Thank you, Karan. I'm presenting the screen.
Good evening, everyone, and good morning, Shravan sir. I am Apurva Durshetty from first year chemical engineering.
I am Nikhil Komala from fourth year Chemical Engineering, University College of Technology, Usmania University.
We are here with our presentation. The title of our presentation is Effect of Pressure on Reactor Conversion in Haber's Process using Pro2. Firstly, we would like to thank Team ECEL for giving us this opportunity to give our presentation. We would like to express our gratitude to the college for coming up with this amazing idea, and special thanks to Surya Anna and Vinay Anna for their support. Fossil fuels are non-renewable resources. They are not going to be available after few generations. With changing seasons, the production of energy from fossil fuels is not consistent. Now, there comes the special attention towards resources like hydrogen. Hydrogen is an abundant element. Hydrogen is used in fuel cell where the byproduct is water and the emission is zero. Now, when it comes to the storage of hydrogen, gaseous hydrogen storage requires high pressure vessels of up to 700 bar, while liquid storage needs cryogenic tanks, which has to be maintained at minus 253 degrees centigrade. You can understand it is highly cost efficient and requires lot of energy. So now the researchers and industrialists come with an idea of using ammonia. Ammonia can be liquefied at 10 bar pressure and minus 33 degrees centigrades. Uh, Ammonia is the carbon-free hydrogen carrier too. Ammonia being major component in fertilizer industry since many decades, many different processes are being suggested by the researchers. But Haber's process is considered because it is feasible. Under moderate temperatures from 500 to 550 degrees centigrades and moderate pressures ranging from 200 to 300 atm, and the estimated conversion is 10 to 30%.
Yes. So this is our problem statement. Our problem statement is to find out the effect of pressure on reactor conversion in Haber's process using Pro2. So this is the Haber's process. Usually initially we'll fed the nitrogen and hydrogen in 1:3 ratio, and then we fit it to a reactor where the reaction happens, and we'll get ammonia, and we separate using a separator, and we recycle the gaseous phase, and we operate. We have considered this problem from NPTEL illustration example, where the reactor is operated at 70 atm and 500 degrees centigrade. This is the methodology we used. Initially, we'll select the components from the component data and define the thermodynamic data and reactor data, and then build the flow sheet and we have used case study and plots feature from the Pro2, and we have run the simulation and obtained the results. So this is how we select the components. I'll be showing in the demo, and we have defined the thermodynamic data as SRK method, and we give the reaction data, that is the formula, to the simulation, and we'll build the flow sheet and use the case study and plots feature, and let's look at the demo. So as I mentioned, in the inputs you can see like here we'll have component selection, as I mentioned. So we'll select from the list. We'll select the components from the list wherein we will consider taking, like, we can use this such tool where, like, so this is how we will select the component, and like that we selected ammonia, nitrogen, and hydrogen, which we are going to use in this process. and then we defined thermodynamic data. We have considered the most commonly used SRK model, and we defined it. And here, using the reaction data option, we'll enter the data, like we'll enter the reaction here. And this is how we start with, by giving the inputs and then build the flow sheet using these features. Like initially, as I mentioned, we'll feed nitrogen and hydrogen in 1:3 ratio. So here the temperature and pressure is considered, and as I mentioned, 1:3 ratio. And we'll feed it to a mixer wherein, and then we'll connect to a compressor. As I mentioned, the reactor is operated at 70 at 8 atmosphere. The initial pressure need to be to that pressure. So we use a compressor where it will compress to 70 atmosphere, and we'll connect it to a mixer. This is mixer 2, and why we use this, I'll let you know. And then the mixer output is connected to a reactor where it is operated at 70 at 500 temperature, and pressure is around like 70 atmosphere. And from the reactor, it will connect to a separator where it will separate to two phases, liquid ammonia, and the vapor phase will connect. This is why we use here another mixer. We connect the recycle stream here, and let us run it. Meanwhile, I'll be saying what we did using the case study and other features. Like, let us run this. And as I mentioned, we used the case study feature and also the plots feature. So in the reactor, what happens is like from the we have initially given 70 atmosphere as the pressure, right? So let's see how the conversion changes with the increasing in the pressure. So we use a case study feature which is given in the Pro 2, and then we vary that pressure of the reactor, and then we obtain the results as reactor conversion, and we can use the output feature where we'll have a plots feature, and then we will plot it. Take some time to run, and we'll be using these two things, like we'll have a stream property table and unit operation property table. So by using this, we'll be able to obtain the results on the screen. So when it turns blue, in the sense our simulation has gone converged. And now I'll show you the case study how we did. As I mentioned, this is how we defined the pressure reactor as a parameter, and by increasing the step size to 50. In the sense, initially we gave it to 70, right? 70 plus 50, it will add on, like for 6 cycles it will do it. And then the results we obtained is like reaction conversion. We can define it here. So here we use the case study feature, and in the output you'll be able to see the plots. And as you can recall the Triveni's presentation where we have defined, like x-axis we defined as pressure reactor, and the y-axis we defined as reactor pressure. And when you see, I'll show you.
Run the file once.
It will take more time again if we run it. So I'll show how we got the plot in the PPT. Like this is how we obtain the results. And coming to the plot, as I mentioned, the pressure I gave in the x-axis and the reaction conversion in the y-axis, right? So you can see initially I gave it 70 atmosphere, and we are getting a conversion of 0.13. So you'll be able to see here in the result table, right? 0.16. And what we did is, using the case study feature, we increased the pressure with a step of 50. And we can see that, like, our problem statement is like seeing the effect of pressure with the reaction conversion, like that is right. So with increasing in the pressure, we will see a higher, we'll have a higher reactor conversion. So what is our thought is that if we have so presently we have pressure vessels of moderate pressure, like it can have withstand with the moderate pressures. So if we have better strengthened reactors which can be able to bear the higher pressures, we'll be able to get higher pressures, and by operating at higher pressure, we'll be obtaining ammonia more ammonia, and that is how we'll be able to store ammonia, and that is how it connects to the hydrogen. This is our thought, and these are our references. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikulanna, and thank you, Apurva, for such a nice presentation. Sir, I've seen you join. Would you like to talk anything, or shall we continue? So next comes the presentation of two dynamic personalities I've ever seen. That is Surya Anna and Pranita Akka. Over to you, Surya Anna.
Thank you, Karan. Is the screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Good evening, everyone. I am Pranita and he is Surya, studying BTech final year in Chemical Engineering. Today, we would like to present our simulation studies on reactive distillation for ethylene glycol production. Reactive distillation is a unit operation in which chemical reaction and distillative separation are carried out simultaneously within a fractional distillation apparatus. It is a kind of process intensification in which reaction and separation take place in a single unit. Reactive distillation has many applications. For example, when the desired product is formed in an intermediate step, reactive distillation can be used, as the product can be removed from the reaction zone as soon as it forms. Similarly, it can also be used when the reaction can be driven to completion by removal of one or more of the products as soon as they are formed. Or when the reaction mixture exhibits azeotropism, reactive distillation can provide a means of breaking the azeotropes by altering or eliminating the condition for azeotrope formation in the reaction zone. In the case where the relative volatilities of the reactants or products differ, that is, for example, if we consider a reaction A plus B gives C plus D, if the relative volatilities of C and D are either greater than that of A and B or less than that of A and B, then reactive distillation can be used. Design parameters. In reactive distillation, tray holdup has a profound effect on conversion, product composition, column composition profiles. So, in addition to the regular design parameters of distillation, that is the reflux ratio, number of trays, feed tray location, temperature and pressure, tray holdup is an additional parameter in reactive distillation. Advantages and disadvantages of reactive distillation. The most attractive features of reactive distillation are improved selectivity and conversion, as the side reactions and unwanted reactions are suppressed, increased yield due to overcoming chemical and thermodynamic limitations, ability to react close boiling point compounds or azeotropes, reduced energy consumption through direct heat integration in case of exothermic reactions, and capital cost savings from the elimination of unit operations. Disadvantages. Although there are numerous applications of reactive distillation, there are also some limitations due to constraints such as the need for a common window, that is the common temperature and pressure for separation and reaction to take place, and the inability to provide proper residence time requirements, and the volatility constraints of reactants and products in the reaction zone. And most importantly, there is a lack of well-established design methods for reactive distillation. Model equations. The model equations are same as that of the conventional distillation equations, but the reaction term is added to both the material and heat balance equations. Here beta is the reboiler ratio. Usually in the equations are written in the form of reflux ratio. Since total reflux condition is maintained, reboiler ratio is used in these equations. Problem statement. Ethylene glycol can be produced from the reaction of ethylene oxide and water, but there is also an unwanted side reaction in which ethylene glycol reacts with ethylene oxide to form diethylene glycol. The reaction rate constant of the side reaction is higher than the main reaction. In conventional reactor with equimolar feed of ethylene oxide and water, a considerable amount of DEG is produced. The task is to design a reactive distillation column which offers both the advantages of high reaction selectivity and heat integration. Column specifications. There are 12 stages in total, including the condenser and reboiler. Water is fed on to stage 2 with a flow rate of 26 kmol per hour at 1 atmosphere and 298 Kelvin. Ethylene oxide is fed on to stage 7 at 27 kmol per hour at 1 atmosphere and 298 Kelvin. Total condenser and total reflux conditions are maintained. A kettle type reboiler is used. Column pressure of 1 atmosphere is maintained on all stages. Catalyst is present on stages 2 to 7 because the stages 2 to 7 is known as the reaction zone, and the region below the stage 7 is the stripping zone of the reactive distillation column. Objectives of a study are to find the boil-up ratio required to produce 95% purity of ethylene glycol in the bottoms and to plot the concentration and temperature profiles in the column. Reaction data. Ethylene oxide plus water gives ethylene glycol. Ethylene glycol plus ethylene oxide gives diethylene glycol. The rates are given in terms of pre-exponential factor and activation energy, which are already specified in the problem statement. And the liquid holdup of each tray is also specified in the table. The reactions are irreversible reactions.
Thermodynamic method. The non-random two-liquid model has been used in this simulation. The advantage of this model is that Pro2 has a very vast data bank of the binary interaction parameters, which is the SIMC VLE database. So the accuracy of a good simulation is largely dependent upon the chosen thermodynamic method and in specific the binary interaction parameters. Although the binary interaction parameters for 4 pairs were available in the data bank, the interaction parameters for two pairs were missing. So they have been estimated using the UNIFAC method. Simulation features. The simulation is carried out at steady state operation, which means that there is no accumulation term in any of the material or energy balance equations. And for the column, the ChemDist algorithm was used. The speciality of this algorithm is that it allows for the inclusion of reactions within the distillation column. The specifications chosen were the total reflux and a bottoms ethylene glycol composition of 95% purity. In order to meet these specifications, the condenser duty and the reboiler duty were varied. And to calculate and display the boil-up ratio, a calculatory unit operation has been used. From the simulation, the calculated boil-up ratio was 19.9. That means for every 1 mole of bottom product, you need to vaporize 19.9 moles of liquid in the reboiler. The temperature profile. As you can see, on the y-axis, we have the tray number, and on the x-axis, we have the temperature. At the top of the column, that is at tray 1, the temperature is nearly 98 degrees Celsius, which is close to the boiling point of pure water at 1 atmosphere pressure. The reason for this is that at the top of the column, we have almost pure water. And coming to the bottoms, we have a temperature of 195 degrees in the last stage or the reboiler. The reason for this is that we have ethylene glycol of 95% purity, and the boiling point of ethylene glycol is close to 195 degrees Celsius. The concentration profile. In the concentration profile, we can observe that as we move down the column, that is from tray 1 to tray 12, the concentration of water is decreasing to a negligible amount. Whereas the concentration of ethylene glycol, which is our desired product, is reaching 0.95 or 95% purity. And in the graph, the concentration of ethylene oxide is not visible because of the scale. That is, the concentration of ethylene oxide was maintained very low in order to suppress the unwanted side reaction, which produces diethylene glycol. And the further work we are considering is to calculate the pressure drop in the column with column internals, use a non-ideal vapor phase, and to do case studies at various feed ratios and operating pressures. Economic studies are also to be included, and this problem is yet to be solved manually. We would like to thank Shravan sir and Pawan sir for encouraging us to learn Pro2, and thank you ESL for giving us the opportunity to present our work.
Thank you.
We thank you actually for sharing all your knowledge and for giving such a wonderful presentation. And next comes Sirisha Akka from 4th year.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Shirisha, 3rd year chemical engineering, and Akshita, 3rd year chemical engineering. We are presenting a simulation software. Now, so we have chosen a problem from our textbook so that we are aware of basics and without going to higher knowledge. So a counterflow double pipe heat exchanger is to heat water from 20 degrees centigrade to 80 degrees centigrade at a rate of 1.2 kg per second. The heating is to be accomplished by geothermal water available at 160 degrees centigrade and mass flow rate 2 kg. The inner tube is thin walled and has diameter of 1.5. The overall heat transfer coefficient of the heat exchanger is 640. So we determine the length of the heat exchanger required to achieve desired heating. And here the problem, they have given the temperatures of inlet and outlet, hot water and cold water, and the flow rate. So now this is the flow sheet which we designed for calculating the length of the heat exchanger. So now how to approach towards the solution. These are the steps to approach towards the solution. First, we need to set the units, components, and thermodynamics. Creating the flow sheet by adding unit operations, adding input and output streams and utility streams, specifying the streams and giving the outlet conditions, specifying the heat exchanger by entering given heat transfer coefficient, run the flow sheet. Then by using calculator, add the parameters that are known and required family and obtain length of the heat exchanger. Now we should run again to obtain the results and display them in table. So now I will be showing the flow sheet. This is the flow sheet, and so in input we need to set the units of measurements. These are the units I have done, which are required, and these are the component selection. So in the heat exchanger we are using double pipe heat exchanger, so we are using water. Then after that we need to set thermodynamics as ideal. So this is the flow sheet. These are the inlet and these are the outlet streams. This is the cold water and these two are the hot water streams. So we need to give the data for each the streams. Now giving the cold water stream, they have given the question that flow rate is this is in kg per hour. They have given in kg per second. So by changing it to kg per hour, this is the flow rate and mole composition is 1. Okay, now they have given temperature as 20 degrees centigrade as the cold water and pressure as 101. So putting these, now Now this is the cold water inlet. Now hot water inlet. They have given the flow rate as 2 kg per second, and this is 2 hours 7200, and mole composition as 1. Then setting the temperature as 160 and pressure as 300. Because we have taken pressure as 300, because at this temperature it is fusible. So we need to take the pressure as a 300 degrees 300. Now after giving these data, we need to run the flow sheet. So we know that area equals diameter equals to area by pi d. So by using by running the flow sheet, we will be getting the area. Now I'll show the area. See, here we got area 5 meters square. So the flow sheet, the computer will take the area as 5, and this is known. So by using calculator, this is the calculator. Now we need to give the data for this. The parameter means which are known, that is area. Then constants which are unknown, like pi and d. Diameter is 1.5 and pi is 3.14. Results, the result is length. So giving these data, we need to type here. So run. Now once again run the data as calculator. So here is the length we got, 10743 in centimeter square. So this is the method that I have used to calculate the length of the heat exchanger. Now we will compare these results as in the textbook result. This is the result flow sheet I have used. I got the result. This is the result length, and this is my textbook problem, heat transfer. So now as we compare the results, area is 108 in meters. Here is 107 in meters. So you can see that we have proved what is there in textbook and how we used the Pro2 for deriving the length in technically. This is the method I have taken for Pro2 presentation, and I feel very excited and fortunate to have such simulation labs in our college. I thank Dr. Pavan sir for providing such simulation software and giving constant support to and opportunities to enhance our talent apart from academics. Thank you.
Thank you, Akka. It is not only about who are giving the opportunity, it is all about the one who are utilizing it too. And we also thank you for utilizing all the opportunities that are given and participating in this kind of competitions. And next comes the presentation of two more amazing personalities. They are Deepthi and Rohit. Deepthi is from first year and Rohit is from second year. Over to you, Rohit.
Thank you, Karan. Deepthi will be presenting the screen. Deepthi. Good evening, everyone. Today, me, Rohit, and along with Deepthi are going to present you a simple fluid mechanics problem, which is based on pressure drop using Pro2 simulation software. So, if you see the first slide, our future is with technology, which is going to fill with technology. So, everything is going to simulated. So, knowing the essence of simulation, let us move to the world of simulation in the Pro2. So moving on. So next slide. So objectives. So before going into the Pro2, so let me take a moment to tell you what the question and what the objectives we are going to explain you. So pressure drop. So our problem is based on pressure drop. So what is pressure drop actually? So whenever a fluid flows in a closed channel or in a pipe, it experiences friction in the pipe. So there may be frictional losses or head losses due to that friction present in the pipe. So the uniformity of the pressure is not maintained at the initial point and the final point. So there may be a pressure drop in the flow. So it may be due to friction, or it may be due to the bendings in the pipe. It may be due to subtle like disturbances in the pipe, inside the pipe. So these are the different factors that pressure drop occurs in the flow. So we need to calculate the pressure drop. So why to calculate the pressure drop? So if you are able to calculate the pressure drop, you can estimate how much pressure you can give at an initial stage. so that you can save money and you can save fluid or gas, whatever you are giving as input. So which in turn saves economy. So it builds economy. And how in the conventional way of doing pressure drop or calculating pressure drop, we use Huygens-Poiseuille equation, head loss equation. So we use different equations to calculate pressure drop in a conventional way of method. So in this simulation, it takes us to easier way. So the background work is taken care of, taken care by simulation and the Pro2 simulation, and the results are displayed to us. So that way simulation makes it easier, and we can get the result as the same of conventional way of doing. So moving on. So Deepthi will be presenting the screen about demo.
Now, would you like to
Deepthi,
say
over
a
to
problem statement?
you. Yeah, it's okay. So problem statement, actually pressure drop. So as our aim is to calculate pressure drop, so we took a problem from our fluid mechanics textbook, which is water. Water, we took a component as a water at 5 degrees Celsius of density 1000 kg per meter cube and viscosity 1.519 into 10 power minus 3 kg per meter second, which is flowing steadily through a 0.3 centimeter diameter 9 meter long horizontal pipe at an average velocity of 0.9 meter per second. So these are the inputs we need to give so that we can calculate. So determining the pressure drop using Pro2. Okay. Moving on to the demo.
Here we'll moving on to the method of approach. As it is mentioned in the question, first we have given the inputs like units of measurement, component selection, component properties, and thermo. As it is mentioned in the question, water is a component and density and viscosity like properties, and thermo we have selected as ideal as there is no specific condition mentioned in the question. Moving on to the thermal properties like temperature and pressure. If we see the question, there is no value mentioned for the flow rate, but we have given here. Here comes the role of the controller. We use controller to find the value of a property by using the constant value of the other property. In this question also, there is the property of velocity is given, but we need to find the flow rate. So we have taken flow rate as the variable and velocity as the specific condition. We have changed according to our desired values. Then after giving the inputs in the pipe like the diameter and the length, here we complete the giving of inputs. So after giving all the required inputs, we'll run the simulation. Here the blue color indicates that we are successful with our simulation. And after that, to get the results, we have taken output table, which is unit operation property table. Here we can see the pressure drop. If we see here, the result is 43.7638 kilopascals, which is absolutely equal to the problem which is in our textbook, which is done manually. So here I conclude. This is the method of approach we have followed to find the pressure drop. So just to add the essence of simulation, we have designed ThanQ with using streams and heat exchangers. I would like to thank everyone for this opportunity.
Thank you for giving such a nice presentation, Deepthi and Rohit. Being a first year, you achieved something really big. Because I myself didn't make any initiation to get into simulation till now. Krishnamurthy Anna and Aditya Anna from 4th year are also not available, I guess. So we are done with all the presentations by all the participants in the simulation competition that is conducted by UCT Alumni Association in our college. I think we need to conclude the session. Any conclusion given by anybody? All are muted. Let me initiate then. So thank you all for participating in the competition and working so hard, learning so much, and after that you shared all your knowledge with us, which is a wonderful thing. Oh, Sir Kim. Sir, anything to
Yeah.
say? Actually, all the presentations are done. We were about to conclude.
Thank you, Karun. So to all of the presenters, I mean, usually Pro 2 is not, Pro 2 is something you get a glimpse of Pro 2 in 4th year. But here, you all have started learning on your own. You know, so congratulations. So this is how all your rest of your life is going to be. There will be, you will have to learn a lot of things on your own when you're in a job. And there will not be any regular classes like what you are having in engineering or before that. So if you learn this, you know, this quality of learning by yourselves, it will help you a lot in life. So I'm really proud of all of the first years who not only have started learning it, but have actually taken the initiative to participate in a competition. So congratulations to all the first years and even the second years. And then the other thing is, when you learn all these concepts using simulation, you will realize that it will help you in GATE, with your GATE preparation. Because when you start looking at, you know, when you, there are a lot of assumptions you make, right? So sometimes you forget the default assumptions you make in solving a problem. So when you're solving a problem through simulation, you can go and look at your input variables and say, oh, okay, these are all the input variables. So it helps you a lot with GATE. And then the other thing is, you can change variables quickly to see what would happen. What kind of, suppose, say, you know, you can increase the pressure excessively and see what would happen. And the other thing is, when you go into a company, no one is going to ask you to, you know, because a company is already running. Suppose you have an existing company and it's already running. Then what happens is, the if suppose say you want to change something, you have to simulate it first. And so you have to learn, if you change pressure, what will happen. And so the simulation will help you to understand what will happen. And then after simulation, there is probably going to be another, you know, another place where you have to check out your simulated values before going into production and implementing it. So simulation is going to be, if you are going to be a chemical engineer, the chances that simulation is going to be part of your life is very, very, very high, almost 100%. So learning a simulating, there are many, many simulation softwares. Pro 2 is only one of them. And so I just got a message from Arundhati, who passed out from UCT in 2019. And she is in Carnegie Mellon. She just graduated from Carnegie Mellon with you know, with a master's degree, and she got a job in a company, and she's going to be using AnyLogic software. And so AnyLogic is again a simulation software. And then she's going to use machine learning software called Python to do some coding. So even though she has learned this, you know, she's a chemical engineer and she's working for a chemical engineering consulting company, you see that she is going to be using a simulation software and a machine learning software. Okay, so start considering to learn one simulation software, and, you know, if possible, also learn a what do you call, a machine learning software or a artificial intelligence software. Okay, well done, all of you. Have a great day.